Thank you for the opening of the green door for us, the Four Kingsmen, and welcome to episode 6 of the Champagne Comedy Podcast, where we love to talk about the best Australian comedy show from the 90s ever made, The Late Show, and other D-Generation comedy tidbits. Now, my name is Matt, and joining the podcast today is, in alphabetical order, Alison, Daniel, and Kim. How are we all tonight? Or today, depending on when you're listening.
Oh, nervous for next week in the election.
Yeah, take cover, everyone.
At the moment, I'm just happy that nobody has knocked on our door because we're doing this on Halloween night. Not expecting any tricking or treating tonight, for which I'm thankful.
Well, if you hear any big noises such as big hail or thunder, lightning or rain or anything like that, we up here where I'm at, we just had a big hailstorm. So, and right now it's gone quiet just in time for this recording. Fingers crossed it stays that way.
Yeah.
So, and yes, it's Halloween. And we've got our Queensland election. So there we go. I completely dated this podcast again. So in this episode, we'll be talking about Season 1, Episode 6 of The Late Show. But before we get into it, and we do have some feedback. In fact, we've got a, dare I say, a water key.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, and if you're unsure of a water key, that means I took a lot of time and effort to make that. That's where Mr. Warnicky, who was an avid D-Generation Late Show reviewer fan, who was quite harsh on the show in the papers. Well, this is where we do have some negative feedback. I wouldn't say negative. I'd just say constructive criticism, I guess.
We could probably say not positive.
Yeah, not positive. So this one, I won't mention the name, but it was written on Facebook saying that the Champagne Comedy Podcast, they might have to sit that one out a little bit because they tend to ramble on a lot and they run way too long. And they've listened to 2 or 3 episodes. So at least we got them for that part. So, I somewhat agree with...
Yeah, they have a point, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a fair cop. So, in this case, let's make our nearly 2-hour show a really short one just for you, unnamed person. If you look at the Facebook comments, you'll see who it is. So, here's a really, really short version of the Champagne Comedy Podcast. That was the best episode ever. Oh, I can't believe you said that, Daniel.
Actually, Matt, I've got about 3 hours I want to talk about tourist attractions in the 90s, if you could just cram that in.
Oh, yeah, I will squeeze that in somehow. We'll make that the biggest podcast ever.
Oh, we talked about so much. We got through so much in that episode too.
I know, right? Jeez. I mean, honestly, and we're nearly in time for the next election.
In America.
Yeah. So thanks very much for listening. And this is the Champagne Comedy Podcast. Reach out to us on TLS Champagne or champagnelateshow@gmail.com. Thank you.
Bye.
Are they gone?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there we go. So there we go. Just for the people who think we go on a bit too long, fair cop.
Look, perhaps you can think of this like one of the dinner party sketches in that, it does go on for far too long.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you've got a whole fortnight between episodes in order to consume it. So, but yeah, point taken. We'll try and keep it brief.
I will say, though, that, we are still continuing on from episode 5 because I think someone else is still chatting.
I don't have to step out of myself when I'm on camera.
Yeah, so...
Imagine what the rushes were like for that documentary,
They weren't rushed, that's for sure.
I mean, that was one of the good bits of what she said.
I've also just got to quickly highlight, which I didn't get to play last episode, but after when this is in regards to episode 5, Santo, when he did Understanding Wogs and went and visited Uncle Alberto. There we go. I'll get it one day. So this is a clip from when he was on the party show on 3RRR back in the day in 1992. So I've got this snippet. It goes for a minute in a bit, but this explains on how they did the tour of Uncle Alberto's house.
What happened is my parents, right, know this fellow. He's not really my uncle, okay?
Yeah,
They go around and eat broad beans at his house. and they came back one night and my parents said, "You have got to go to this guy's house."
Is that with all the balustrading?
Yeah,
and
it's got cement balustrading, but in wood finish, and he's got frescoes painted on the ceilings, right? And my parents are going, "Go to his place. You've got to film this place, right?" So, and I kept on saying, "Yeah, look, I know, yeah, Woggy player, ha ha ha, Velvet, all that kind of Barocco stuff, yeah." And they're going, no, this is different. Go to it. So I went along, right? And I brought my camera with me and I filmed the whole thing as you could expect, you know. So I show it to my parents and my parents go, "You can't show that on television." what happened? You told me to go to this place, you know. So anyway, in the end, I told him I was going to play it and everything. And he's got kids, you know, and he must have told his kids, and his kids are going, "Oh, hang on, you don't know what you got yourself into here." So he rings me up and he says, "That thing that you filmed, can I just have a look at it before it goes to air?" And I'm going, "Oh, no, you know, I've put the subtitles, sort of put Woggy music and all this kind of stuff." So I prepared him. I said, "Look, people are going to be laughing at this segment, right? Because we're making a joke about the way SBS subtitle things. And also, to make it more lighthearted, we've put funny music." So he convinced himself, and now he's really, really proud of it. I saw him at his 40th wedding, and yeah, he is. He's very proud of it. I saw him at his 40th wedding anniversary last week, and he said he's been showing the tape to everybody, and he's telling everybody, "And you know what? They're really nice guys, because when they asked me to come to the studio, they sent a taxi to my house." He lives in Glenroy, so he's really happy.
It can all be smoothed over with a cab charge, can't it?
So there's a bit of background on the Understanding Wogs and Uncle Alberto. So
That's right.
What a good sport Uncle Alberto was, actually.
yeah, it tends to be that a lot of the Chilero family or extended family are really nice and warm. I guess we'll go straight into the episode, which is Season 1, Episode 6.
Whoa, hang on.
Whoops, what have I missed?
Just two things. Again, keep in mind we have to try and keep this short. We've got an article about the DGen from the Sydney Morning Herald that appeared on the Monday before under the very kind headline, "A Bunch of Degenerates." So the intro sort of sets everything up, really. The Degeneration crew may have been bruised at first, but they're still laughing, writes Paul Pottinger. I won't read the whole thing out. They'd received quite a big kicking critically for the news show, which has only been on for about a month or so, with remarks like ill-conceived, sloppy, elitist, and even unfunny. Rob says that he supposes some of the comedy will fall flat if you don't understand the subtext. We always expected it. And they also mention a couple of episodes back that so insulting and irritatingly irrelevant have some of them been that the cast took the extraordinary step of belittling one of their critics, a Melbourne tabloid journalist and illustrator, at the end of one program. They don't mention the Melbourne tabloid journalist, but I think we all know his name, don't we?
Soundbite.
Yes, of course.
Water key.
There we go.
Thank you for the cue.
Thanks. In the dressing room afterwards, it was apparent that the degenerates, again, they're being called that. I don't know why they... It must be a bit like how Tony Martin gets my favourite Martin all the time. Degeneration are destined to always be called degenerates. But yeah, they were either highly peeved or basically unfazed by this gent. They also mentioned that the studio audience's reaction had been overwhelmingly positive, and that there was little or no need for the applause sign to help prompt them. There was a bit of talk about Rob Stitch's impersonation of Bruce McAvaney, that it worked a treat, but even then we started getting people around here saying we'll have to do that again. Where Bruce was great to do that week, when you start working a character into the show every time, there's no point in doing it, you get Con the Fruiterer, he said.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So it's kind of nice that, they didn't turn into you'll be seeing him every week. There's also mention again, similar to the Green Guide piece, I mentioned that the current deal with the ABC at the time was for 10-hour-long episodes with the option to extend to 22. I think that might have been put in there to sort of get the word out that if you don't start appreciating this show very quickly, it's going to go away in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
There's also a brief mention of Countdown and the fact that many of the episodes had been lost, believed wiped at the time. Tom says, it's tragic. There must have been about 40 episodes a year shot over 10 years, and the ABC wipes most of them. And last of all, the article ends mentioning that it's far better that there's 15 minutes of dud gags in an ABC hour of 60 minutes rather than 45 minutes of nothing but dud gags. So, fairly even-handed article there.
You know, and they come across, the D generation come across as having a really good attitude to the critics, I think. You know, they sort of say, well, you know, this isn't for that generation of people who are the newspaper critics. This is for a younger group of people who get where we're coming from. So, you know, that it's a nice article.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, next thing will be the TV guide. Going to make it really quick. I'm probably going to say that a lot this episode. We've got to make it quick.
Otherwise, we'll get another water key.
Exactly. So, on Channel 9, we've got The Great Race, Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis from 1966. On Channel 10, we've got Jewel of the Nile with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner, and that Billy Ocean song.
That Going Gets Tough.
That's
Gets
the one.
Going. Yep.
On SBS, we've got a 1964 Czech comedy called Lemonade Joe, which, according to the Ross Warneke review, is a spoof of the Hollywood Western with teetotaler Lemonade Joe taking on Hogo Fogo, the hard-drinking villain, and pursuing the delectable Winifred with Karel Fiala and Milos Kopecky. So I'm sure they're probably like Tom and Nicole in Hungary, I think. In Czechia. What else? Channel 7 had football, Brisbane versus Sydney, delayed coverage from Carrara. And then last of all, on the ABC, the lead into The Late Show was Smith and Jones. And then straight after The Late Show was that high-rating program, Order in the House.
We're coming a long way since, we haven't even started with Birds of a Feather yet, have we? But
I haven't come across it in the TV guides just yet, but I'm sure it's coming soon because I think there's probably only another episode or two of Smith and Jones.
And no.
Yeah, I think they used to make like 6-episode blocks of Smith and Jones, but I'm also interested in when we switch over to Birds of a Feather.
And there's no Michael Aspel in sight.
The only other thing to mention is in the listing in The Age, Ross Warneke likes to put his little critique next to the listing for The Late Show. This week's is a little kinder than last week's. He just says, live Melbourne-produced comedy show with a low laugh quota.
Snap.
So I'm still not forgiving him after last week's one about it being 55 minutes too long. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for that report, Daniel. Here we go with Season 1, Episode 6 of The Late Show, which was broadcast Saturday, August 22nd, 1992. And guess what? It is the 1992 era of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Close your eyes, and relax. Think of nothing tonight.
Everything's all right, yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
Wow.
And we have Rob going backstage at Jesus Christ Superstar with Glenn Wheatley and John Farnham. And John Farnham is playing the man himself. Oh, that's Jesus Christ. Just, jeez. Yeah. And Rob tries to show, the role playing Jesus Christ hasn't gone to Farnham's head. And there's all the jokes and all the puns and everything that goes well with, the Lord and Saviour.
Every Catholic reference in the book in this opening.
Yeah. Washing the feet, Shroud of Turin. There was turning water into wine. There's pretty much all there.
So every little joke was right there.
No, just what Rob was wearing. His skivvy and his holes in his jeans look very, very 90s.
I was just amazed that this sketch came to fruition at all. Because like I'm surprised that there wasn't some sort of PR person that might have stepped in and gone, yeah, this might not be a good look, for the upcoming tour if we have John Farnham going through all these Jesus references.
Do you think it drew bums on seats for it? Like, was it free publicity, especially when you can't really advertise on the ABC?
My memory tour was that it was like a really big kind of blockbuster thing, because I went to see it at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre, and it filled up the entire stadium, and it was playing in big stadiums all around the country, and it did so well. They actually revived the production, I think, a year later, and they toured around big theatres as well, because it was really popular. Because basically you've got John Farnham, you've got Kate Ceberano as Mary Magdalene, you've got John Waters from Mud, of course, as Pontius Pilate, and you had Angry Anderson as King Herod, and John Stevens as well was Judas, I think. So it was just these massive kind of, rock stars, basically, and loads of people went to see it. So I don't know if it needed the publicity, but, it's a nice sketch that they do here.
I've got a feeling that it might have been done very last minute, because it seems like it might have been done on one of Santo's camcorders, just sort of Rob pulling John and Glenn aside and saying, could you help us out with this idea we've got?
Oh, they could have gone and actually seen it and then, done it on the spot, yeah.
Yeah.
With the camcorder from Australia's Funniest Home Videos.
But also, of course, maybe this is the first time they met John Farnham, and maybe because he enjoyed doing this, he was prepared to be in seemed like a good idea at the time, which was a year later, wasn't it?
Well, also this comes after John Farnham's cameo in the 5 in a Row video clip as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He punches out the DJ Rob Sitch character.
Yeah. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah.
So one in a few run-ins with John Farnham here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm disappointed though that they don't go and see John Waters backstage, or they don't do any filming with John Waters, because he's in Mud. John Waters comes into it in a few episodes' time, I think.
They were probably scared, if not shit scared. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So the opening titles, when we have the opening remarks with Mick and Tony, there's no cheap jokes at the expense of Fergie and her relationship with Texan boyfriend John Bryan. And this is the famous financial advice routine.
Yeah, I love it. It's just how to do your tax return, investing in debentures, and negative gearing. I love how it just cuts away to the next sketch and just leaves that for you to laugh at.
Advising her brains out.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
Yeah.
I love the way Tony uses that euphemism. Like, he also says later on that Woody Allen's been advising Mia Farrow's daughter from a very early age.
Yeah, and always nice to see a Joy of Sex parody as well.
Yeah, and then Tony later on did an entire series called The Joy of Sets.
Yes.
But yeah, that was huge news at the time, those photos in Women's Day or wherever it was. And we see this later on in the news desk. We'll get a chat to Fergie, and then she'll talk about in more detail about what happened.
In fact, I do remember fast forward at the time, I think it was in their final year, and they were doing a big satire of it where Gina Riley was playing Fergie, and then it's like, go on, suck my toe, no one's watching, and then it came up with the sting of Amazing Stories. YouTube it, it'll make sense.
Yeah.
But there was a nice little reference to Robert Gottliebsen, and I had to research who that was, and that was the columnist of the Australian Financial Review. So that was more or less a math joke.
Robert Gottliebsen was also the finance journalist on the ABC News, and I remember early 80s, he would appear on the news desk on the evening news on the ABC, and he would present live a little segment on finance, the finance news for that day. So yeah, he's a well-known finance journalist at the time.
Oh, that's really cool. So they always have something a little bit meta, maybe related to the ABC or some type of personality. Yeah. The news desk with Tommy G now, and straight up, bullet point system. Here we go. So George Bush on the campaign trail again, ignoring claims of infidelity. Q8's Awesome Twosome finally complete the qualifying race, and they show footage of a rusty boat moving very, very slowly. bit tasteless, but, it's pretty funny. And another Parliament security scare as Kim Beazley smashes through the front doors. Yes, and that was a fat joke.
Yay!
And I don't have the taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 connected, so sorry. I don't have that at
So
all.
am I the only member of this panel who has actually Googled George Bush's infidelity in the interim between the last episode and this one?
Yeah, I did quickly Google it.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, I looked into it because, none of us remembered that George Bush had been alleged to have had an affair, and apparently he had lots of affairs. But there was one particular affair, which is the one referred to, where she was his secretary, basically, and they were sort of, lovers for many, many years. And so wherever he moved around the world, she would go with him to provide secretarial services, basically. So,
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Not financial advice?
Well, there probably was some financial advice involved, but yeah, that's the story with that.
So we have budget week, and John Dawkins shows the plan on getting the country back on track, and they splice in an image of his resignation letter. And Tommy G has a pre-recorded interview with Dawkins, asking questions with Dawkins constantly saying, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes,
Very high pitched, yes.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
He also,
And-
yep.
Oh, just that little head movement. It was just hilarious how they kept repeating that over and over. And you could just tell. I think that was one of those things that you would just say in the playground the next day at school. For me, at least, we would just go around going, yes, yes, yes. Some would say you're a yes man. Yes.
And Tommy also interviews Peter Reith, which is Rob. So it's another one of Rob's impressions there. So he's building him up very slowly. And his reaction to the federal budget, which is 30 seconds of cliche responses.
Yeah, and I was too distracted with all the cliches there because I was trying to work out whether there was any cotton wool in Rob's mouth there.
Yeah, it wasn't a great makeup job, was it? I looked at him, I thought, Paul Lynham, I just the ABC makeup people had a sort of rough day that day.
Yeah, that's understandable. They work really hard on Rob to make him whoever he needs to be, don't they? So credit to the makeup department.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially considering it would have been, less than a couple of minutes worth of sketch.
So we go to England, and Fergie in the news over the steamy affair photos showing her topless. Now, the photos weren't published, so The Late Show publicised them, and they cued a really badly photoshopped Fergie head on a naked woman's body. So, that one...
That probably would have been cutting-edge technology for 92, I reckon.
They would have literally cut out pieces of paper and glued them together.
And we have Jane as Fergie drinking champagne and having a chat with Tommy. After all, they ramble on where it goes nowhere. The one joke that I loved out of it was when Tom asks if the Queen is upset, in which Fergie responds, no, Prince Edward's taken it rather well.
Yeah.
Jeez. And even then, Tom tries to save it by saying it was predictable even for us, I guess.
That's right. And then he was asking about how John Bryan was reacting to this whole toe sucking scandal. But in reality, I think the first thing that he was saying was basically, I wasn't sucking a toe. I was just like kissing the instep or something, He was really, really adamant that he wasn't doing that out of everything that could happen.
Next story is the Republican Party convention in Texas. So everyone has turned up, and even Ronald Reagan, after he was told that there will be free balloons. And they show...
It's always a thing with these conventions, no matter what side of the aisle, that there's always a big balloon drop.
Yeah.
They don't really have anything here for Australia, do they?
Well, certainly nothing with as many balloons, that's for sure.
No.
The other thing with those conventions is that, the candidate will be standing in front of about 35 American flags, and you think, could you get more flags onto that stage? It's impossible. They've run out of flags. You think one would suffice.
Just to make sure that it is that country that they're in, and not say something like Lapland or anything like that.
Yeah. Mick makes an appearance in this clip where Dan Quayle's, look, who is that lady? She's your wife.
Didn't he look pleased to do that?
We also got Alf Camilleri as Saddam Hussein yet again.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Again, a good little cameo spliced into, George Bush shaking someone's hand.
Yeah.
Now, Tommy G interviews Bush, which is Rob again. Rob's getting a good workout, that's for sure. And he promises...
As is the Mickey Mouse phone.
Yes.
Yeah, nice to see the Mickey Mouse phone again.
Yeah. And he promises more hand gestures when he talks.
And he's going to over-enunciate the word Kuwait. Kuwait, going to stretch it out. And then there's the famous reference to how he says American family should be more like the Waltons and not like the Simpsons. Yeah, that was one of those famous lines, wasn't it?
Yeah. And he also included other family values such as the Flintstones, the Manson family, and the Addams family.
Oh, yeah. They may be kooky, but they're all right.
He said families should do things together like the Manson family, although quite like the Manson family. But anyway, Google it if you're unsure.
There's a history
You might
lesson.
also need to Google Paul Lind, who Rob, as George mentions, he sounds like.
Paul Lind.
Yeah, he's some sort of a confirmed bachelor, I think might have been the term at the time.
Yeah.
I sort of know him more from, I think he was the voice of, what was he the voice of? Something in the original Charlotte's Web. Templeton the Rat, I'm pretty sure.
Charlotte's Web. There we go. He was in Charlotte's Web. Yeah. And Beach Blanket Bongo. Beach Blanket Bingo, which looks like it might sit next to Bikini Shop.
It's a rather more innocent film than Bikini Shop. I'll just make that point. Blanket Bingo.
And now the showbiz news. And Woody Allen and Mia Farrow have broken up. And they make a last attempt at marriage counselling. And we have a little sketch. Well, a little sketch that actually went on for a fair bit, which is Q Jane as Mia and Tony as doing his best Woody impression, which I'm sure he would have got a kick out of, doing counselling like they're in a movie.
I really, really love this sketch. And you really appreciate it if you've watched a few Woody Allen films, because there are sort of lines that are stolen from various Woody Allen films, and you see the font that he always uses on his credit sequences, and all of his films are full of kind of clarinet music because Woody Allen plays the clarinet, and all of that kind of New York anxiety that is infused in the character that he always plays in all of his films. And yeah, it's a nice sketch and done with a lot of affection, I think, for Woody Allen's films anyway.
And unfortunately, the audience just aren't going for it.
No, they don't get it, do they?
Do you think it was too nerdy?
It is very, very nerdy as a sketch, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I appreciated it the first time, and then once I got to know what he was getting at, I found it hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's one of those ones you don't really get the first time if you haven't watched his films.
I kind of appreciated it just more for the dead-on impression Tony was doing. I mean, I've got no idea if Jane, with that bucket hat pretty much over her whole head, whether that's an accurate Mia Farrow impression or not.
Yeah, it is. It is for a certain era of Mia Farrow, yeah.
And now this is the early presence of this iconic TV show.
This is such a wistful theme, isn't it?
Yeah. When you consider like the shouting that was so prominent in the show, the sort of high-pitched shouting.
Basically the first thing that comes after that very serene theme in the first episode of Sylvania Waters we're talking about is Laurie and Nolan basically having an argument in the kitchen, something about, he can have a bloody party if he wants to, or something like that, which just absolutely shatters the serene impression from that title sequence.
Did you watch the first episode too?
Well, I didn't have time, but I definitely will now. I mean, that was a huge show, and it was big in the UK. Was it a UK production originally? Is that how it all started?
It's a BBC ABC co-production, and it's all available on YouTube. Not quite legally, but it's in pretty good quality on YouTube, like almost broadcast quality looking, with a 10-second countdown on YouTube if you can find it.
Yeah,
I'm kind of amazed it hasn't been taken down yet.
was quite a cringy show, and you kind of felt this is not really how we all are. But that was one of those original reality shows, and the accusations of it all being edited down to make them look bad, etc. Sylvania Waters is just a few minutes down the road from here. I remember when it was such a huge show, they actually had a barbecue at their house, and I went there with my mum to actually meet them and get a barbecue off them. And I was waving to the son from the balcony. He was waving on. I had my video camera with me, and he's on the balcony waving as I was eating a sausage.
Is that the one? I think that there might be footage of this on YouTube also, but I think there might have been a Today FM outside broadcast with Black Thunders sort of.
That's probably what it was. It was related to a radio station, so yes.
Right.
I'll have to see if I can find that footage.
Oh, that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, please do. Wow. I had no idea.
I mean, again, this is like how innocent were the 90s. They just sort of basically told people the address that they live at.
Yeah, you just go there and...
Yeah, I mean, I know that was kind of revealed in the show anyway, where they lived. But, these days they would really try very hard to protect people from the potential of being stalked or whatever by weird people. And back then, this is our address, come round for a barbecue. Just like, it really was a different era.
The whole part was that a commercial station was seeking interest in their own version of Sylvania Waters. And so up comes a little bit of a sketch starring Ali Donison, Eric McPheen, my apologies. He's from Neighbours, and Craig McLachlan as well from Neighbours, and someone resembling E Street's Mr. Bad. They threw every single soapy cliche into the entire 1 minute bit, which falls flat on the audience, but if you're aware of how it all works, it was bloody funny.
Craig gets to say, how many times do I have to tell you I've got the lead in the Rocky Horror Show?
Yes.
Also, I'm amazed that this is the first mention of Sylvania Waters that we've seen on The Late Show, because both The Late Show and Sylvania Waters I think they started the same week. So it's been 6 weeks, and this is the first we've sort of heard about it.
It must have taken a while to take off,
I do remember the hype coming up to it, where it was in a lot of newspapers and TV Week, but it was kind of like what they do now, where all the hype is, this is so negative, so horrible, even before it was shown.
Yeah, that sort of outrage and controversy, and it's all good for publicity, apparently.
And I do remember that I think some of the neighbours of the Donahers weren't impressed.
I wonder why.
Yes. So after the news desk, we have a quick little commercial sketch, which is Butcher's Hair Studio. And they pretty much draw polar opposites from a fancy hairdressing salon to a dodgy and rough 90s bloke type feel of hair studio. Jason all nice and fancy, and you have Mick as rough as guts.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a sort of fairly decent parody of a pretty dodgy barbershop. The sort of the one where any men waiting to get their hair cut could read a selection of light pornography. So yeah, one of Mick's offerings at Butcher's Hair Salon is that he'll cut your hair with a chainsaw, which and then there's a shot of Tony bandages having received this treatment. So yeah, it's kind of parody of blokiness, essentially.
It's also got quite a lot of good lines in it, like there's no herbal tea or flicking through copies of The Face. Which, geez, that's a really 90s reference, I've got to say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to work in the office that The Face was in back when I was living in London, and the magazine had only just closed down, and they had to leave abruptly, and we had to go, and we were able to grab some of their stationery and old magazines and Kodachrome promotional slides of random movies, and I found it was a bit random. Old printer cartridges that I sold on eBay. That's what happened to The Face, but it's back again, isn't it? They brought it back online, did they?
Well,
no,
I think they did. I think they. Someone was going to bring it back. I remember reading something that maybe COVID.
That's sort of true of most magazines these days. They stopped the print edition, and it's another website.
Born in London in 1980, the original definitive style magazine, reborn in 2019. So that is theface.com. I'm guessing that's it. That's the one that you're referring to?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if Trucking World face the same fate, which is the butcher's alternative to the hair studio.
Oh, I'm disappointed that Butchers doesn't offer the Australian Post or whatever, Oz Post or whatever it's called, which was
Australasian, yeah.
Australasian Post, that's the one, yeah, which was a feature of the barbershop my dad frequented. So,
and he wasn't there just for a haircut.
oh, well, to be fair, I don't think my dad ever indulged in that particular magazine. There was also a selection of, nice magazines for men about cars,
Gotcha.
Wheels magazine, that kind of thing.
Sorry for stereotyping your dad that way.
Yeah, there was
My
a choice
apologies.
of reading. Well, my father's still alive, Matt, so he could sue you.
Oh, okay. All right. Censor that out.
He probably would, though.
Another line I liked was book your yearly cut at Butcher's, which
Yeah.
I think that sounds like me in 2020. Really, I
Yeah.
still got the long beard, I still got the long hair. I think I'm going to get my yearly cut in the new year.
Well, I just realised too, because we're missing Prue and Tony, because they're based in Melbourne, and now they've got their freedom right now. So I'm sure a lot of them.
That excuse they made about how they couldn't do it tonight, they're both at the pub.
Yeah, they got their freedom. I'm sure one of them's down at Butcher's hair studio.
And I don't blame
Yeah.
them either.
Yeah. Hey, guys. So next segment we have is Countdown Classics, and the theme is the Ladies of Countdown, with tributes to Marsha Hines, Cheetah, which has Lindsay and Chrissy, and Christy Allen, putting the lycra leggings and knotted T-shirts back on the map, as well as with Tom making a reference to what Janie's wearing and saying that if she was inspired by Christy when she's going, no, this is what I usually would wear.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jane's really getting into it. She knows the lyrics really well in this segment, doesn't she?
And because it's always a running joke with Molly Meldrum, Molly expresses his appreciation for Linda Ronstadt, also showing, okay, hey, check out this lady. When if you just read between the lines.
What about that for a lady? He says, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
He says, because I had to write this down, this lady is definitely my heartthrob.
duh.
And this week I'm showing you what I think is the ultimate in ladies. The ultimate in ladies.
Tommy G's line following that is, it's not really an expert opinion though, is it?
Yeah.
Or something.
And
I mean, to be fair, Linda Ronstadt's pretty good, as a singer and everything. But yeah, not Molly Meldrum specialism women.
I also want to mention also in the intro, Tom and Jane list, quote, macho figures, unquote. And then they go on to list all of these teen heartthrobs like Ray Burgess, Daryl Braithwaite, Leif Garrett, and John Paul Young, who I don't know if you know, but I'd say they're probably not that macho. Probably sex singles, but definitely not macho men.
No.
And it just went right over the head.
but we all got it. We thought it was funny. There was also tributes to Pussyfoot, Nusha Fox, and Elton John.
Had that slip in there.
Yep. And Tommy's countdown hornbag is the girl with the big norgs from Promises.
Hey, she's got a name. Her name's Leslie Nauer. Come on.
Hey, I'm just quoting what Tommy said.
Yeah, we actually, when I was Googling this, we just typed in woman with the big Norgs of Promises, and then Leslie came up. Actually, no, she didn't really, but that, yeah, I'm sure she probably would have, because I'm sure someone on our forum mentioned it, and it probably will come up on Google, but yeah, someone else can test that out for me.
Yeah, shall we try that Google search right now?
Hold
There's quite a nice joke at the end of this segment. Tom talking about the woman from Promises, and at the start of the segment, he's really manspreading quite severely. I would say. And I thought, oh God, Tom, put your legs together slightly. But then right at the end, when he's talking about the woman from Promises, we suddenly realise why he did it.
Yes. And he's like, no, Jane, I'll just sit here for a while. You go off. I'm still sitting down here, and his legs are crossed, equally opposite of manspreading.
I just Googled that exact line.
And were you in incognito mode?
Oh, oops, delete. Yes, clear cache. And yes, it's 100% accurate.
Excellent.
I'll take a screenshot later and put it on Twitter.
Great.
Yep, TLS Champagne. You'll see it there following after I've uploaded and posted this episode. Hey, guess what it's time for?
Hey.
The Olden Days, episode 6. Judge Mutton Chops. You know, these sideburns, guess what? They're not even real.
Don't forget the episode title of this is Front Bottom Gets the Shaft, which is a very Tony Martin-esque title.
What I love about this is where they introduced Constable Bad News. So I want to know, in Rush, what resulted in that character picking his nose.
Yeah.
Because he hides the news internally. And for 5 seconds, he's scratching or he's got his thumb up his nose trying to find the message.
Some fantastic sort of crunching sound effects when the fingers are up the schnozzer.
Yeah.
Well, what had happened was Front Bottom is to be replaced by Governor Funbags, who congratulates everyone on their suburbly dubbed voices.
Except for one.
Yes, except for one, yes. Thank you, Governor. And we have Funbags claiming that he's going to make a lot of change around the Mudfields, and while he's in charge, you know, he's going to bring it on. But Front Bottom calls him out, saying that this is the only footage of him in the entire series, and it's not going to happen.
And that was probably true.
Mutton Chops calls out the fact that's like, well, this story arc has come to an abrupt end, so let's make a toast by serving up the main course, goat's testicles deep fried in rat's phlegm.
Yeah.
She Sergeant Alden rushing off.
And then the line, that'll be on back chat.
One of the first of many backchat jokes that they do in a series.
Yeah, the Late Show itself was on Backchat, I think, but maybe not yet. I don't know when they were on Backchat. There's some on YouTube. I think you can see the Late Shows, the Backchat segment about Late Show.
The only one I can recall is from the next year when Judith Lucy came on, and I think the words "that repellent feminist" might have been used in relation to her.
Yeah.
Next segment is Muckraking with Mick and Jace, and they're discussing the Marilyn Monroe special on Channel 10, The Marilyn Monroe Files, hosted by Bill Bixby. Yes, this special is on YouTube. I watched it for about 3-4 minutes and I had to turn it off.
I'm amazed you got that far, because this thing ran for 2 hours on the Monday before this episode.
2 hours?
8:30 to 10:30, yeah.
Was that to coincide with the 30th anniversary of her death or something, presumably?
Yeah, it was early 60s she died.
So, but Mick was disappointed that Bixby didn't turn into the Incredible Hulk once.
Yeah, very disappointing.
They show a clip of the guests on the show with Mick spliced in, claiming that he was sleeping with Marilyn on the time of her death.
He would have been quite young. Actually, she died before he was born.
Oh, good on Mick.
Don't go bringing reality into this.
Sorry. I
prefer you give that thumbs up to camera and that sort of it's true kind of look towards the camera.
Yeah. I love that moment, but yeah, I was being pedantic.
I also like Jason's little retort to that, saying, "You get around, don't you?"
And other clips were shown were hopeless reenactments. So really, really bad stuff. So Jason and Mick decide to make their own using Ken Bruce's twin sister Madonna to reenact a couple of scenes. So good use of a nice throwback to Ken Bruce, that's for sure. So they show some other boring clips which they reenact with more pizzazz, such as, and they start reading Marilyn's diary as well. Day 1, boofed president. Day 2, taken 5 sleeping pills, still can't get to sleep, might try watching the main event. So there's
that
another.
Usually does the trick. Yeah.
Yes. And day 3, slept with the whole Kennedy clan. John Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, even had a crack at Gerard Kennedy from Division 4.
Ken Bruce's twin sister Madonna is doing a lot of manspreading as well throughout the reenactments as well. And of course, it all ends in the immortal catchphrase, "Marilyn, baby, what
are you doing?"
We got to get those made into T-shirts. The next bit is one of Tony's iconic moments, especially on the Best Bits of the Late Show DVD, where Tony talks about Robert De Niro and his previous jobs and other bits and pieces, and what he did before he got into acting. Jobs including being a waiter, being a contestant on a quiz show, and being a weatherman.
And yeah, any sort of impressions that I would do of Tony doing Robert De Niro would not do any of it justice. So I'm going to stay right out of it.
We can't recreate this. If you know it, you know it.
Yep.
But look,
Yeah.
just like the Woody Allen impression earlier, it's just spot on.
He's doing he's sort of recalling De Niro's performance as Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver, which I think De Niro won an Oscar for. It's certainly a very acclaimed film, Taxi Driver, and the famous phrase, "Is that what you want?" There you go.
Hey, you deserve that. Nice.
Yeah. Is that what you want? You want me to come on this podcast? Anyway, yeah. Try it in your own home. It's great fun.
Also, what is the capital of Spain? Madrid. Because even though he had the answer right there on the card, we never found out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still wondering until you just said, Daniel, you know.
So the next sketch is this one is a little bit different with Mick the Clown, or Chuckles the Clown, and his business expenses were brought under scrutiny by the tax department. This was a nice, healthy sketch, really, that
It's a very traditional sketch, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the one with John Farnham. You know, it's basically, you know, every possible gag you could do about a clown going to the tax office, you know. So yeah, very traditional sketch. I'm disappointed they didn't work in a bit of, you know, giving her financial advice, but I guess they probably couldn't have, got that into a sketch about a clown going to the tax office.
Well, see, it might have been sitting on the shelf for a while. It's one of those sketches where it's not really topical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite evergreen. They use a term, that wanky term there? So
Yeah,
they
and
could.
it's still a couple of months before the tax deadline. So if anyone's doing their tax right now, you've got basically today to do it, unless you've got a tax agent, obviously. But if I was doing it myself, which I was, last minute, I've only got a few hours to submit. So anyway, he was some of the examples of things he was claiming deductions for were $1,600 for custard pies, $800 for whoopee cushions, $600 for shoes, but they were really big shoes. So, of course. Oh yeah, there was a logbook for his vehicle, it's $15,000, and he's basically remind me what that joke was.
$15,000 for vehicle depreciation because the doors kept flying off.
There we go. The next segment, they throw back to John Farnham. Rob is having a chat to Farnsey with Farnham reading Glenn Wheatley's revisions from a song routine, and this is the old high school song which everyone knows, Jesus Christ Superstar, burning around the corner of a Yamaha, blah, blah, blah. Everyone knows
come
that.
on, finish it off.
Cops were there. Doesn't
Didn't
care. Because he wasn't wearing
any
underwear.
Yeah.
There are some variations, apparently. My partner says there was dude a skid, killed a kid. I don't remember that one, but anyway.
I remember that one because that one he's burned his balls on a petrol lid.
I would be really surprised if there's any other variations out there. Get in contact with us if there's anything different. Or if you just want to come up with your own, you know. We're starved for content.
Yes, indeed.
Well, we find it very, very difficult to fill 3 hours of airtime, so you know, we need you.
I know. And, you know, because of that, you might as well just skip ahead. You're still with us. There we go. So the next segment is Jane hosts interior design, and the subject is how to furnish your beach house with guests, editors of Holiday Home Beautiful, Max Meehan, which is Jace, and Alfonso Valere. I can never get his Italian names right, so that's
Valere.
Valere. There we go. God, I'm horrible at this.
Like the song.
Yeah, Volare.
Oh, I'm an idiot. I am such an idiot. They pretty much give a rundown of what to do with your beach house, really, and that is secrets to beach house interior design. The 3 golden rules: tacky, tacky, tacky. Design for walls, wooden cutlery, tapestry, and image of foods or baked goods or anything that would usually be sitting in a kitchen.
And some sort of a weird string sculpture piece of artwork.
Also, inject a bit of humour by...
Macrame.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I mean, Well, sometimes in beach houses you see kind of 1970s macrame with, like the beads woven into it and all that. But yeah, this giant salad servers, that was mandatory at a 1990s beach house.
My grandparents had them. When I was a child, I tried to use them in the salads, and they go, no, don't. You're using the wrong cutlery. And I go, it's there. It's what it's used for, right? And other things that they had were by injecting humour into the beach house by using a picture of dogs playing snooker. Other things were play their Scrabble, which were missing A's, Q's and P's. And you also have to have a deluxe model TV, a broken knob that only gets one channel. And on rainy days, there's no channels, so you have to play the computer game, which they end up describing Pong.
Yeah.
As the table tennis with the bats.
Yes.
And saying that it'll get you minutes of fun. They also mention old copies of the Women's Weekly, but nothing after 1983, which would have been when it went monthly.
The passive-aggressive sign about all breakages must be paid for, wash sand off your feet before entering the house, no pets, toilet paper only in the septic tank, and then have a nice day.
Yeah. And of course, there's as is mandatory with these sketches, they say that Jane's a very beautiful lady.
That's right. Very smart and beautiful lady.
Yes.
Which I think they. Well, I don't know if they started off doing it like it, but certainly in this sketch, it seems like they only say that to try and crack her up.
They did that in a previous episode with the karate school, the self-defense school, where Santo starts stirring her up a little bit. So,
I also like a bit of the. There was an exchange with Jane saying that's terrible, and I forget whether it's either Jason or Santo replying, "Thank you."
The next sketch is a throwback, which you don't know until the big punchline happens, which is Robert De Niro, Tony Martin, as Santa.
Yeah, that's another classic one, isn't it? And he's basically the poor kid's like, I don't want a tow truck dragging a car along. Is that what you want? Should I fly up to the top of the North Pole and get some elves to make that stuff for you? Is that what you want? Sorry, I tried.
Well done.
I think everyone needs to do a De Niro by the end of the episode.
Will that make you happy?
Is that what you want? You want me to
that is what I want.
De Niro? You just want me to just put on an American accent and just try and fail miserably? Is that what you want? Is that what you want? Well, f*** you. Gee, you're right. That was fun.
Yeah, I think everyone should do it. It's 2020. It's been a really crappy year. We should all get that out of our system.
Don't vent on Twitter, social media, Facebook or anything. Just do a De Niro out in the street.
Well, something you were asking for on Twitter was if people want to make a cameo on this podcast and say who they are, where they're from, and give us your best line from The Late Show.
Well, that's where actually...
Why not do a Robert De Niro impression?
Well, I've got a sample here. It's not Robert De Niro. I was going to save this to the end of the episode, but I might as well bring it in now. So therefore, it just shows if you're paying attention and listening and not the 3-minute version. I actually have one submission so far. Come on, there's got to be more. You're all downloading it. I know the stats. So this one is Lance, and no surname or Twitter handle, but he does a quick impression of a future character.
I made love to her like a tiger. Like a tiger.
Yeah, so
that's really good.
Yeah, so if you can submit your own version, you can do anything like $50, or that's the one I can think of off the top of my head right now. Robert De Niro.
I want more Robert De Niro. Send us your bobs.
Yes, at TLS Champagne, or email champagnelateshow@gmail.com. So if you do that, and I can get them into the next episode, or I plan to build them up and release it as a little bit of a special later on.
I'm hoping for someone to do, here comes the clarinet. You can contribute a Mia Farrow if you prefer.
It can be the most subtle thing, even run, Charlie, run, or anything. Or yay, nice work, Charlie. Or from bottoms about, anything. The next segment being Commercial Crime Stoppers, and Mick and Santo start highlighting Doberman shutters.
Santo seems a bit puffed out from the interior design sketch, which happened to for this, just incidentally.
So they played the commercial where of a person, a cliche intruder, trying to break into the roller shutters, and every time someone disturbs or tries to break in, they show a ghostly image of a Doberman because that's the brand. So Santa goes, that will explain their deluxe model, and they show a garage door with shutters with Bruno Lucia. Also, that's very dad. That's if you're not sure who Bruno Lucia is, just get the box set of All Together Now. Nothing comes.
Which exists.
That's better. That's a better thing to do.
Just put that at your front door. That'll scare people off. Also, Rose Hancock shutters, and also the top range is the little fat kid from Hey Dad shutters. So there's another fat kid from Hey Dad joke.
But there are worse jokes to come in this segment.
Please, do you want to describe the next one?
Well, there's an organisation called Bavaria Shutters. I don't know what it is with shutters adverts, but there's this kind of really kind of over the top bit where a bloke in a German outfit in lederhosen kind of comes in and annoys a woman in her home, and the punchline is keeps out unwanted hands.
Yes.
His name is Hans. Yeah. So that's a good joke, isn't it?
It's one of the best jokes.
So good that Mick has to lie through his teeth and say, I didn't get it in the dress rehearsal, but I just got it then.
Yeah. And they were running a little bit of a competition towards the end of it, showing a clip of a man in leotards, and they were asking what the ad was about. And it could have been A, an ad for the Christian Television Association, B, Mark Hunter's new music clip, and C, Senator Robert Ray on crack.
Yay, a Senator Robert Ray reference.
Yes. You gotta love political jokes in this show.
I also love that they comment, boy, I wished I lived in Perth after seeing that. Yeah, very flummoxing advertisement.
Yes.
Yes.
The key word is flummoxing. So the next segment is Shit Scared with Tommy G. Rob, Mr. Fearless Shit. Oh, Rob.
Shit Scared, starring Rob as the shit, and Mick is the scare.
Oh, continue on. Oh, I'm not going to edit that out. I'm just going to leave it as is. Rob Sitch, Rob Mr. Fearless Sitch, and Mick on location at Mount Hotham. His stunt is very highly dangerous. It's an aerial ski jump, and the film is a remake from The Man of Snowy River, all done on skis.
It's The Man from Snowy River number 3, and I didn't even know there was a number 2, so this is interesting.
So, yeah, they were doing it the third movie, and Rob was stunt doubling for Jack Thompson.
Saying that the cult from Old Regret gets chased down the moguls.
And you have a bit of Mick yodeling, because they're at Mount Hotham, which I'm assuming that when they filmed the previous speed skiing record, they were at Mount Hotham too. Do it all in one hit, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd certainly hope so for that ABC budget.
Mick makes a scale snow jump, and Rob explains what he's going to do. Cue the snowman Mick has made as well of Rob. While they're there, what skiing equipment does Rob use? And that's Mount Hotham Ski Hire. What a quality brand.
Very expensive, about $6 an hour.
Bigger than the ABC budget. Now, Mick urinates in the snow, and Mick supplies Rob with thermo gloves with a giant novelty hand. The snow produces many dangers: avalanches, whiteouts, school holidays, ticket prices, car parking, and the Yeti.
So not much has changed then.
And Rob,
I like the fact that throughout this sketch, Mick has got earmuffs over his helmet.
Yeah,
I did note that. That was a nice touch, and I also like the little mini version of when he does the snowman, and Rob basically decapitates the mini version of Mick as a snowman.
Do you know what type of skill sets there were on the ski slopes that Rob describes? Do you know what colours they were and what difficulties they were?
Oh, the green. The green was meant to be the easiest, but he was making it out as if it were the most difficult.
Yeah. This was like how he suggested that the belt colours were different.
Yes.
And he had a yellow
parallel with that. Yes.
So yeah, it's meant to go yellow, blue, black with skull and crossbones, then green.
Yeah, so Rob does his helicopter stunt, and then he gets slammed by Mick on a snowmobile. So he actually completes the stunt, but screws it up at the same time.
Yeah, basically the dummy gets ploughed by Mick on the ski-doo. Do we reckon it was him or someone dressed as him doing that ski jump? I'm sort of 50-50 as to whether it's Rob or someone else.
You know what? I wouldn't have any idea because unless you know that Rob is good at skiing, then I guess it probably was someone else totally different.
I've kind of got the feeling because they did go on the slopes occasionally as part of their work on radio. Rob sort of seems like the kind of guy who would be a competent skier, I would think.
All right, we'll go with that. We'll go with him. Unless we make a phone call to Working Dog. So was that Rob in 1992 doing that jump? No, we'll just go, leave us alone. The next part is the toilet break with Tony. Now, this is a special toilet break because in regards to Jesus Christ Superstar.
Close your eyes, and relax. Think of nothing tonight.
It's all right, yes, everything's all right.
Now, that's the 1992 version. Now, you go back to the 70s, the 1977 version, I believe, is the one with Gus Mercurio, and they play the commercial where Gus Mercurio is plugging Jesus Christ Superstar and Just Jeans.
On stage at rehearsal are the stars of Jesus Christ Superstar, and it's a fantastic show. No kidding. Jesus and Mary and Juz by Just Jeans.
What a name, Juz.
Juz.
With that little commercial, which would have been inserted for Funky Squad times, they lead into the reenactment of the Four Kingsmen, but they're performing Ice-T's Cop Killer, which was quite controversial at the time. Still kind of is, but this is where Ice-T was banned from coming to Australia because of that one song.
Yeah, he copped quite a lot of flack for this song, so much so that eventually it got taken off of the album by the band that he was part of called Body Count. It's not even available on streaming. There is a live version you can listen to if you so wish. Just be advised that there's a lot of F the Polices in there. We don't get a lot of in the Four Kinsmen parody.
But this was a very well done clip by the boys and Jane, of course. And just the footwork and Mick's expression, his acting it's very much like the Frente clip where he's just overacting and his facial expressions are just hilarious.
He's really having it up in this one.
Yeah.
Oh, they loved it.
Yeah,
didn't
for
they?
a bunch of guys who don't dance very well, they really get into it. You know, they throw themselves in as best they can. It's a bit like when Alexi Sale used to dance in Alexi Sale stuff, you know, just chuck themselves into it and they would produce something really funny. So well done to them all.
If you want to watch this, well, the easy way is that it is on YouTube. Somebody has put this up on YouTube. But, you know, if you want to do it the legal way, it is available as an Easter egg on the Barge Ass Olden Days DVD. Good luck trying to find it, but it is there.
All right, so the news update is, and I'll go straight through these as they're somewhat bullet points. Unless anyone wants to say anything, feel free to chime in. You have AV Jennings to open up a display home in Bosnia. Terrible joke. George Bush sets out to single-handedly heal race relations, and it's got George Bush interacting with a karate school, and George is pointing with Rob overdubbing, "I'm going to kick your butt. I'm going to kick your butt." That's right. While getting this karate uniform on. And to mark the anniversary of the failed coup in Russia, Boris Yeltsin unveils Moscow's first public urinal. And that echoes the first news update from episode 1.
There's not too many jokes you can really do when you see somebody behind a big thing that looks like a urinal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that he sort of self-deprecatingly says satire all the way after that joke.
Yeah.
And
well, then the next sketch, yeah, more satire, certainly.
Yeah, well, do you want to talk about that one? Janet Holmes à Court becomes the first female member of the Reserve Bank board, and cue all the sexist remarks.
Again, this is it's sort of a similar sentimentality to there was one in the first couple of episodes to do with Aboriginal deaths in custody, where they're not really jokes. It's more just sort of highlighting the how much of an asshole men can be, really.
Yeah, it doesn't reflect on the DGen themselves. It's just more or less trying to highlight the fact that that's what it was like back then.
Yeah, I think they did this one a lot better than the other one.
These male members of the Reserve Bank board ask her to make tea and collect their dry cleaning and all that kind of stuff that, you know, I guess women in the workplace still face to a large extent, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's still a very relevant clip.
Oh, yeah.
It's very right on, but it fell with a thud, really, because like Tommy G tries to backpedal out of it, saying, good luck to Janet there, she's certainly a good sort, and we'll move overseas now rather quickly.
The next story is the UN convoy being held up I'm going to say it wrong, Jurajgistan. Yep, I'll go with that.
Please. Me too.
Yep. And they were held up by landmines, anti-tank devices, and the lollipop lady. More of a visual joke for that one. Now to Melbourne, where the ambulance service was rotten from the top down and grossly under-equipped. And a sketch of Santo as an ambulance officer piss-farting about. And everything is just a complete schmozzle, pretty much.
I quite like Santo's performance in this because it's not very over the top. It's quite understated, really. He gets a phone call from somebody wanting an ambulance there immediately, and just sort of goes through all the very cliched sort of, you want it now?
It can only be between 8 and 11 or whenever it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Very specific time slots, and the urgency of the situation just seemed completely lost on him, and that's the whole joke, obviously. I think Santo did really well in this, as you say, Daniel, very understated, but brought the point home, and the whole situation in the ambulance area where they can't even spell the word ambulance, and they've got a pizza haven there as well with Popper's ambulance. You get it for free if it's not there in 20 minutes.
And now the US Republican convention again, and Santo was on location during the week making observations, and anyone who gets to go on the podium gets a big reaction, and so Santo starts demonstrating it. Point like this and say, America, and you get this huge...
And he said, I will shoot anyone wearing a stupid hat for America. There are plenty of stupid hats in America at the moment, aren't there? I liked how the audience cheered Santo when there was someone holding up a sign saying Santo makes us smile. That was quite cute.
Now we have Piss Week World, or Piss Week World with ease. Colonial Village.
Ye oldie Piss Week World.
Yeah, ye oldie, yeah.
It's ye oldie because the ad starts off with, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye.
So that was just like your Adelaide medieval fair from a few episodes back, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt an inspiration.
Of course, yeah. And they have, the Colonial Village in Adelaide as well, where they had riding on the exciting Cobb & Co coach, which has a man wearing a horse head carrying around a wheelbarrow. See a genuine blacksmith at work. Tom holding a nail over a candle.
The toaster, wheel damper, bush tucker. And being put in the stocks where you basically just had your arms hanging out of the window of the car. Yeah. A 43-year-old man in an unconvincing costume.
Yeah, as the bunyip, yeah.
That's right.
And they're panning for gold in the gutter of the street as well. So it's basically a Sovereign Hill piss take.
The next segment, Tommy G with audience participation. Tony, Rob, Mick and Santo reenact album covers. So this looks like it's just trying to fill some time.
Yeah. Definitely. Although it does have a very spectacular ending.
With, what's his name? Aaron Beaucaire Specialty.
Yep.
Yeah, setting Jason on fire.
All right.
I mean, I'm trying to think of how that would have been done. Obviously, there's something underneath that's preventing Jason from getting hurt, and there's probably only a limited amount of time you can set somebody on fire before they start to notice.
They have a special chemical thing, which they would have coated, and there will be a low heat producing fire. So, I'd say they would have had all the measures and all the smoke detectors all turned off, or at least they're not around the area.
They managed to reenact quite a lot of album covers in this and just, ask the audience to shout out the answers. So they go through Beatles doing the Walk on Abbey Road, the Band on the Run with Wings. Jane manages to waste a lot of time trying to get out there while Tom tries to fill in, recreating Led Zeppelin 4. Then there was Rolling Stone's Sticky Fingers, Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA, and then, the pièce de résistance, Jason, partially on fire, shaking hands with, who was he shaking hands with? I forget. But recreating Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. Can you remember who the other guy was that Jason was shaking hands with?
We'll go with Santo.
I was too mesmerised by the fact that somebody was on fire.
Quick little sketch is next, which is a commercial, the Hack 2000, over-exaggerated blender chopping up everything that Jane puts in. Fingers, veggies, and pretty much the entire joke, yeah.
And it got a really good reaction from the crowd because, reacting to all that blood everywhere with that big, ugh.
Yeah, I think as we discovered from previous episodes, gadgets are all the rage in the 90s and Hack 2000, that sounds really impressive. And these products, some of them are just a load of crap. So obviously this one was criminally unsafe, untested, completely untested. Asbestos-lined carry case as well, just in case you wanted that bit of extra danger to your meals. All the different blades. I think we preempt the Gillette kind of 16-blade ad further on along the series. I like this ad.
It was very clever. It was one of their best.
I thought that the company name, the name of the manufacturer, Shonkster, would have put people off, but apparently not.
The next segment, Tommy G with his dog, and it's not Charlie. That's the female dog.
It's Ellie.
Ellie, yes. And breaking down dog food. So he has, as a sample of Pal, or, a proper meaty dog food. And then his claim to fame is his own invention, which is Wolfo's dog food, a food that dogs actually want, containing garden hoses, rocks, grass clippings, and a piece of a sock, a doormat, and a mystery ingredient, dead fish.
We were talking in the last episode about whether the dog that Tommy G had was Charlie, the wonder dog, but I think probably it was Ellie, the not so wonder dog.
Yeah, Ellie the dog.
I reckon that might have meant that this sketch might have been meant for last week, perhaps, but might have gotten cut for time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was sitting there, wasn't he, on
at
Tom's
the end?
lap?
Yes.
Last week.
We should also point out Tom eating the Pal dog food. And he's saying the Aussie pensioners can't be wrong, because something going on at the time was the fact that they were on such a low income.
Australian pensioners can't be wrong, yeah.
And naturally the dog eats the Brand X, which is the natural dog food, and not Wolfo's. So he's a little bit disappointed. Oh, shucks.
And, Tom has the perfect line, right, that's it, you're getting spayed on Monday.
Poor Ellie.
Boy, that drum's getting a workout tonight. Now, the next segment, Graham and the Colonel. And right after the show is Order in the House. So they have to make it quick. In fact, the show is running quite long.
As is ours.
Yes. Sri Lanka could win their first test match ever with 500 runs, and Craig McDermott got hit in the head by a bouncer. And the Colonel goes, what was he doing at the discotheque? And then he reiterates, bouncer, get it? Graham's reaction was priceless, though.
And they moved on away from sport and talked about Fergie again. And they were just saying, gosh, what about the quality of those photos? They were so blurry. How could Kodak has made the Duchess pay for them? And then they talk about the stickers where you actually used to get, if your photo is out of focus, there would be a sticker saying, you have to remember to focus your camera. You have not been charged for this print. Does anyone remember that?
Yeah, I remember those, yeah.
I do have a story when I accidentally left my camera at someone's party, and it was a colleague's party, and the people at the party used that camera to take some photos. When I came back to collect it the next week, I was like, I'm sure I was only halfway through this roll. Oh. And then when I went to the photo developing place, I said, I don't know what's on this camera. And then when I got it back, there were people who were just basically drunk, and they were in certain positions. They were in underwear, but they were actually,
Yeah.
So, and I was like, that actually did happen to my camera. Oh no.
That's like when you...
That scene from Parenthood came true.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, that's a flashback.
And they were suggesting what celebs you could fantasize in this country in regards to the Fergie type things, and the Colonel started ranting at Dawn Fraser, Dame Joan Sutherland, the mother from Sylvania Waters,
Yeah.
Colin McCulloch, and
Another fat joke.
yep, and the anniversary of Mike Tyson losing his heavyweight belt. The next day, he found them on his other trousers.
Classic dumb Graham and the Colonel joke there.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so they're on the verge of wrapping up for the episode, and they have the worst album covers, and it's a lot more than what it was last week when they only had Ted Mulry gang. So you had Johnny O'Keefe with the Peppermint Twist.
That was interesting, the Peppermint Twist, because I always thought, Johnny O'Keefe was the wild one, and he was like a tough rocker, and this looks like, not a particularly tough rocker album, the Peppermint Twist.
No, wasn't it? It was such left of field in a way.
Yeah, it looks like something your grandparents had owned, but anyway.
And other albums were presenting Max Whitehouse, as well as the Young Talent Team Salutes ABBA.
Featuring Dancing Queen.
It's available on eBay for $29.95.
Oh, boy.
Far too expensive.
Yeah. Or you could go to a particular place in Bendigo if you'd like to actually pick it up locally.
And also the last one being Ernie Sigley. And here's Ernie.
I actually own an Ernie Sigley album, not that Ernie Sigley album, but another one. And he's not a great singer. I'm just going to put that out there.
So it's no Hey Paula type thing?
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
Hey Paula was no masterpiece either, really.
it's all right, but, that's kind of the level that Ernie Sigley's on. He's all right as a singer.
Not like...
Close your eyes, and relax. Think of nothing tonight. It's all right, yes, everything's fine.
Yeah, everything is not all right on Ernie's album.
Other than the worst album covers, it wraps up with the closing, and Graham and the Colonel promote the audience tickets, with Jane chiming in. And Rob...
She's a very beautiful woman. She's a very beautiful... They're trying to make her laugh again.
Read in between the lines on that one.
And Jane asks for next week's audience to donate $5 when they come into Somalia and the Famine Fund.
Yeah.
So quite interesting that they're doing that. You sort of forget about that sort of thing going through the news that was happening in 1992. That that sort of thing was happening as well.
Then again...
Well, we've got the joke Michael Hirsch credit to get through.
Yep.
Well, it was Madonna's Wardrobe by Michael Hirsch.
Ah.
Excellent.
Straight out of the Marilyn Monroe reenactment.
Yep.
Good old Hershey. Unless anything else needs to be said.
No, we've got to get to Parliament.
Yes. And yes. I got to go check on the Queensland election now, see who's actually the Premier for Queensland.
Yeah, don't tell me who won because I'm taping it for later.
Okay, good.
Is that what you want? You want to go find out who won the election? Is that what you want?
Will that make you happy? Well done. That's an applause for everyone.
Yay, we got through it.
Yeah.
Cool.
In record time as well.
Yes. So...
Yeah, so much. We got through so much again, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yes.
Yeah.
And just a quick little dovetail in regards to earlier when I was asking for your own impression of your favourite quote from The Late Show and to send it through. Again, this is what Lance sent through.
I made love to her like a tiger, like a tiger.
Please send it through champagnelateshow@gmail.com because I would like to make a little montage tribute to the listeners and also this podcast. If it works in by the end of the year, fingers crossed there will be like a little Christmas special. So please send them through. I don't have any prizes, but you never know what I might find at the $2 shop.
But hey, you get the glory of being on a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. All our 10 listeners can't go wrong.
I mean, not everybody can say that they've been on a podcast.
No, only every second person.
There we go. See how the other half lives. Submit your stuff.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. That is episode 6 of the Champagne Comedy Podcast. And, please make sure you stay subscribed to us through your favourite podcast provider. And, shoot us an email, champagnelateshow@gmail.com, or send us a tweet at TLSChampagne. And, please make it positive, or otherwise I'm going to label you as a water key. Yeah. At least if you do that, make it in written form, but give us 5 stars on iTunes and Google Podcasts. So thank you very much, Alice and Kim and Daniel. It's been record timing. Yay!
Yay!
See you next time.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Champagne Comedy Podcast, created by fans for the fans. For more information on this podcast, please visit champagnecomedy.com. Produced by Matt Fulton Productions, mattfulton.com.au.